everyone, and hope you have a nice morning today. And so I'm the moderator today for this the consensus layer consensus layer client security panel. So from the very beginning of the consensus layer, it was called the EAST2 development. We were designed to have a multi-client ecosystem, and so far I think that part is going pretty well. We have like 5 or more consensus layer client teams working on the consensus layer protocol, and they're all very cooperative and very nice guys, you know. And yeah, so today we are going to talk about some security perspective in the consensus layer client development, and also like what we learned before and how we keep moving forward to the future. Okay, so now can we all give us 2 minutes quick introduce of yourself and your team from Paul.
My name is Paul. I'm from Sigma Prime. I work full-time on Lighthouse and made one of the first commits on Lighthouse. Since then, I've been working on growing the team and setting the direction, and also engineering when I can get the chance.
Hello. My name is Terrence. I am from Prismatic Labs. I work on Prism. It's a consensus client written in Go. Besides coding, I also like to read a lot about research. Now I'm focusing on the MEV and Layer 2 stuff, and those also very interest me as well. So yeah, thanks for having me here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Phil Ngo. I work at ChainSafe on the Lodestar TypeScript implementation of Ethereum Consensus. I've been there for about 6 months now, and I'm excited to be here and talk to and get to know all the other Consensus clients.
Yeah, hi, I'm Adrian Sutton, and I work for Consensus. I'm one of the core devs on the Teku client. Prior to Teku, I've been on that for a few years now, but I actually started on the execution layer, bringing Besu to fruition, which was really exciting and interesting. From Brisbane, Australia, and love working with all these guys. It's a fantastic culture we've got in the Consensus side.
Hi, I'm Mami. I've been working at Status on the Nimbus Consensus client for the past 4 years. And I was the one that basically started to implement the Ethereum 2 spec while everyone was on Ethereum 1 at the time. And thanks for having me here.
Okay. Thanks, all of you. So I know not everyone has mic today, so I will ask questions. But if you other people want to jump into the answers, just speak out, and it's all good. So we were starting with some tech issues, and like Terrence, could you introduce the client architectures, what we have right now?
Yep, that's a good first question. I guess when we ask someone, right, are you running a node? It's not a single piece of software. It's actually multiple pieces of software that's stitched together, and then they have their own API implementations. So at the minimum, if you want to participate in a consensus layer, you will run a beacon node. So what is a beacon node? Beacon node is a piece of software that follows the head of the beacon chain. It has a P2P stack. It can gossip beacon chain network object. It has a for choice, so you know where the head is. It is a little bit heavier to run because of all this additional responsibility. And then it also talks to ETH1 client, so it knows how to package deposit, so it's aware of the other side as well. But if you do want to stake, then you're also running a validator client. What is a validator client? Validator client is a piece of software that's designed to be lightweight, but also secure. It manages validator private keys. It also signs validator duties such as blocks, attestations. It also has a slashing protection, which is important to make sure the validator doesn't get slashed. So how beacon node and validator talk to each other is through a beacon API. It's a certain API that allows them to get duties, to get block, sign block, and stuff. And that API today is open. By open, I mean that it is Beacon Node's responsibility to get responsibility to not get DOS attack. So it's fairly important that you don't expose that port to other people. You probably should be under a firewall and stuff like that. And then that's even more important post-merge, because post-merge, you actually have to set the feed recipient. And if your port is open, then anyone could replace your validator feed recipient and steal your money. And Adrian actually has a wonderful blog post about that. I highly recommend it. And besides validator client, there's also this software. It's called Remote Signer. And Consensus actually did the effort of that. It's called Web3 Remote Signer. So what that does, it's a specialized piece of software that's managed to basically keep your key secure and signed, right? And depends on your appetite. Depends on how secure you want your thing to be. If you're enterprise, you handle thousands of keys, that's probably for you, right? But if you're just at home staker, maybe not, because that also brings in complexity as well, because to be able to manage that piece of software. So yeah, that's the high level. Actually, can I add one more thing? Post-merge, you also mandatory, you have to run your execution layer client. And that through an engine API. So that interaction also needs to be secure. That's why there's a JWT auth protocol that's embedded in there. So it's important that we do that.
Yeah, very good and great introduction of this our system. And anyone wants to add anything?
Yeah, just on the stealing the fee recipient thing, that's kind of by design as well. It's a really interesting quirk of security that the way it works is the validator client sends ahead of time a message to the beacon node saying, hey, prepare for these validators to need to build blocks. And here's the fee recipient I'd like you to use with each validator. There's nothing that signs that message to say, yeah, I really have the validator keys. So it's easy for anyone to just say, yeah, all the validators, their fee recipient is my address. Great. It's trivial to say you've got to add a signature to that. It adds a little bit of overhead, so we don't really want to do it because it's an extra signature check for very little reason. But it's kind of a nice thing that it improves network security by leaving it insecure, because now you can't use a shared beacon node. There is a real downside to saying, oh, I won't bother with running an execution layer. That's too hard. I can't use Infura execution layer, but I could use Infura's beacon node. Yeah, that'd be great. I'll just steal all your tips. That'll be good.
Yeah, so that we have like many components in the CL itself, and in the future we'll have like yield. So already have some challenges in how to interact with other things, and also in the future we'll have to not the future, it's coming soon, we will have to interact with the EL clients. And so the next question is to Adrian. So what's the most challenging thing that in client development from your perspective?
For me, the standout challenge is just keeping up with everything. We were joking before we need to fire a bunch of researchers. They're getting too far ahead of us. And I think, this is a security-focused conference, so you look at that in a couple of ways. It's not just that, oh, woe is me, I've got a lot of work to do. It's that for people to be able to actually review the new proposals and changes that are coming in, you've got to have this really broad scope of understanding. You've got to understand that proposal deeply and everything it interacts with. So it's really challenging to review them well and make sure everything is secure and that it's going to work out well. That takes a lot of time and effort. And there's a risk there that we'll miss things. But also, it's really hard to keep track of all the things we've got to actually implement in our clients because there's so much changing. And it kind of keeps me awake at night a bit that we're going to miss something, that there'll be a fix put into the spec that I see and I got busy, so I didn't log a ticket and it got forgotten. And all of a sudden, everyone thinks Ethereum is secure from it and our client isn't. And possibly all the clients missed it, and the whole problem is still there, or just we have a chain fork and things like that. So things like the reference tests help that a bit, or a lot really, for many things. But there is a real concern that some of these could slip through when they're a little more subtle and hard to test in reference tests.
That's a good take. And anyone wants to add any sort of your what make you stay up at night? And
So to give you more of an example of the difficulties for implementers to keep track of everything, first there is the different domains. We need knowledge about blockchain, everything that has to do with consensus. We need knowledge about cryptography and sharding. We had very hard cryptography, and I think everyone is like, oh, dunk sharding is crazy. And also there is networking, which is also quite difficult, and the first line of defense. In the public attack net, it was a networking stack that was attacked and destroyed for all clients. And then research stream, like right now, we have light client, we have the portal network, we have dunk sharding, we have proto dunk sharding, we have vehicle trees, so many things. Communication with the EL, GWT authentication, and so on, and so on.
Sorry, go on.
I'm forgetting at least 10 more things.
so,
I was just going to quickly add to that too. Just the fact that a lot of the times protocol teams are usually lacking the horsepower in terms of numbers and just being able to accomplish a lot of the stuff, especially when we have something coming up that's gonna change a bunch of the way that we do things, and it's just very difficult for a lot of the times to be able to actually find the people who are even willing to do this work. As we all know, the protocol layer does, also suffer from not having enough expertise or enough people actually contributing to it. So that is also a huge problem. On my team, we have 5 engineers on us, but what happens if someone gets sick? What happens if someone's out for a period of time? It's very hard to replace these people to actually, keep everything going, especially when the merge is coming up.
I see. So the issue might not be how difficult this tech it is, but how much time we have and the manpower.
Yeah, speaking of people power, it's always challenging, I find as well, to figure out how quickly we should be moving. So we kind of have to, I find the difficulty in this gray space of, we can move too slow and Ethereum stagnates, we don't get anything done. We move too quickly, we start to burn out our people, and then we make mistakes. And same with growing the team as well. It's great to find people, but it really feels like some of this protocol work, like client implementation teams, really have a point at which applying more people becomes much less effective. So it's very difficult, I find, just to find I guess dealing with these kind of loose, squishy problems.
I guess I can add one more, since this is a security event. One thing I found more challenging than other is just testing, because today we have 5 consensus clients. They're all amazing. And soon for the merge, we will have 5 additional layer clients, and they're both amazing. And there's, just look at the combos, the possibilities that you can run different combos of client. And that is design. It's a beauty is that way, because client diversity, which we'll get more into, is very important. But how do we make sure all the combos are working nicely? How do we make sure if there's one change on one of the client, it doesn't break all 4 other clients? And that brings in additional complexity as well.
Yeah, we got N squared complexity, one of the worst types.
That's all very. I see that there's a desire of hiring for all of the not only consensus layer clients, maybe the whole protocol design domain now. We are hiring for security experts. That's why we are here to joining this conference to show our Zooms. So, yes.
So, regarding hiring, I think every consensus client team is hiring, but also if you want to be hired by a security auditors, right now, if we want to audit something, we need to tell them like 6 months in advance. So you can go to a security auditors and help us by having more bandwidth for audits of consensus client.
And yeah, so I think so we changed the runtime a little bit. We can talk about the onboarding issue first, since we are already here. Like, this question was we're going to for Mami, and it's about like so security. I mean, client security is that critical to the Ethereum, the whole Ethereum, and all the application above on it. And what's your suggestions and other people's suggestion to the new recruits and the new people who wants to join this domain?
So when you join a protocol consensus client team, usually it's a change of mindset, because if you were developing for other industries, except maybe poker or casino, the industry was a bug, was not exploited to steal your money, basically. And so now you're in an adversarial domain, and every bug could be maybe $1 billion mistake. And so it's both scary and exciting. We have things in place, a lot of tests. Every client team does reviews. We have so many test nets. I don't think anyone remember all the test nets we had. So do it, but make sure to ask questions to your team members that are more experienced, review things, and that's also why we have so many clients, so that we can point, this is Nimbus who made a mistake, or this is or this is Prism, Teku, Lodestar. Like, I remember, well, you were not there here, but at the very first Interop event, Lodestar dosed every single client that tried to connect to it. And that was an amazing security review.
Yeah, anyone wants it?
Yeah, in terms of security as well, I would just say that I think there's really a whole lot of bugs still in Ethereum consensus layer, in the protocol, and in all the implementations. We definitely haven't found all of them. So if you're interested in looking at them, if you can come along and find bugs in the protocol or implementations, then disclose them responsibly, and I suspect you'd have a bounty from the Ethereum Foundation and a few job offers shortly after.
Nice. And anyone wants to, any suggestion to the new hires?
I guess the thing I'd add is that you don't need to know everything before you get started. Mm-hmm. Like, so much in Ethereum, people actually get started by doing things, and then they find a job or they start their own company and get really rich or whatever. But actually, particularly at Consensus, we've had a lot of success in hiring people from outside of blockchain entirely, and just training them up. Because if you get good developers, you can teach them blockchain. And different specialist skills that you can pull in if you've done security in other environments, coming into blockchain and learning that adversarial environment and the differences there, it's entirely possible. So don't hold back on reaching out and applying for open jobs that you look at and go, I wouldn't know how to write a client. For a lot of that, we can teach you. You've probably got skills we don't have on our teams that we want. And then we can teach you the Ethereum specifics and things like that. So, yeah, get into it and get going.
Yeah, I would just add to that. Usually when I'm interviewing candidates for our team, one of the little hacky things that you can really do to try to make yourself stand out is actually to try contributing to all of our clients. We're all open source, and you can easily just take a look at our issues board. I'm sure we all have hundreds, maybe even thousands of them. So, getting a chance to know the team and, contributing some code is a great way to really make yourself stand out.
I guess another thing to add is I feel like a lot of our best talents are actually homegrown. By homegrown, I mean just people that have stayed in your Discord room for a while. They are just willing to help each other. They're willing to answer each other's questions. And through that journey, that person became a protocol expert because they answered so many people's questions. And then we end up hiring them, even though they don't have programming experience, and that turns out to be brilliant coder at the end of the day. So there's always that path as well. Just be willing to help other people and stuff.
Yeah, just you can go to the client team's GitHub and found a good first issue and start to hack it if anyone wants to join this domain. And see the document and just you can start today if you want. Okay. And the next one we want to talk about client diversity if anyone's interested in it. Beside the technical issues and topics that all the client teams are working hard on, there are some non-technical issues like client diversity, but this is critical to the security because if the majority client failed and if finalize the chain, then it will cause into a disaster to the proof of stake chain especially. So this question for Phil, what's your take on this?
Well, it's funny that you asked me this question because Lodestar is probably the least used client at the moment right now. So there is an incentive for me to really push hard on client diversity here. But I like to describe, with client diversity, a good analogy is also to look at something like an aircraft. A lot of the times these components and things, they're made to be redundant so that if something breaks at the first layer, there's always somebody else to back them up. There's always another redundancy to help, ensure that that another client that maybe doesn't have the bug and is following the spec correctly will be able to help keep the liveness of the chain going. There's nothing worse than having that break. So when it comes to client diversity for all of us, it's just really important because I think even during one of the I believe it was the Shadow Fork or the Kiln testnet, Prism itself was able to discover a bug in which they had their endians flipped around and the rest of us picked them up. When someone goes down, the rest of us are here to pick it back up. But a lot of the times, the determination is not necessarily made by us. We hope that people will run clients at a 20 percentage so that we can have the ability to make that happen. The last time I checked the numbers, it's great that we have been able to bring Prism down from a super majority, and I think probably one of the happiest people to really hear that is probably Terrence Preston as well, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all here for the same goals. We all contribute to ensuring that Ethereum is chugging along, and I think it's really just the best ways to really ensure that this message really gets out here. I mean, we're doing better than the execution layer right now in terms of getting this word out. But, post-merge, it's going to be very important as well for the execution layer as well to also be a little bit more diverse because invalid blocks hurt all of us.
Right. 100% agree with what Phil said. And I think it's even more critical to have the correct balance, client diversity post-merge, because with proof of stake, there's this notion of finality. And every 10 minutes, something to get finalized. And that's bad if it's a consensus bug. They would be really, really ugly to revert back. We hope that we don't ever get to that point. And this is coming from a consensus client dev that has our client share is probably 40 to 50% right now. And I do sleep a lot better at night knowing that something that I wrote will not make people lose a lot of money. So yes, it's very important.
Yeah, I was going to speak to the incentives for the client teams as well. I think we've really got an incentive to see diversity because, I guess as a business, as long as we have either enough of the network or enough potential to continue to be funded by the community and the foundation, then we're not really incentivized to have a whole lot of users because it's just a whole lot more work. And like Terrence was saying, if they're the super majority, there's more likely to burn them out, stress them out. So I think it's really good for the teams as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really nice things that we've got going is that we're all actually a team. Like all the client devs work really well together to be a team that produces the range of consensus clients that Ethereum needs. And so, we'll poke at each other and have some fun and disagree on different things. But ultimately, we want Ethereum to succeed. And that's what almost all of our businesses and parts of businesses are actually based on. Like the protocols group in Consensus isn't judged on the amount of money we can bring in from support contracts and things like that. We're judged on how much better we can help Ethereum be. So it's kind of an invitation for everyone to actually join the team, which is trying to make Ethereum better and make sure that you're contributing to client diversity on consensus layer and execution layer, because it helps us sleep better at night. And, it's what we're all working towards.
I think just to add to the financial incentive stuff, a lot of the times, especially if you're not necessarily looking at the technology aspect of things, but more so the economic benefits of being a staker and stuff like that, a lot of people tend to think more about what client will make them the most money, as an example, rather than how much you can potentially lose if something were to happen to a specific client. So a lot of the times it's just a bit of an afterthought, and I hope that we never have to experience something catastrophic happening where people actually see why it's important to try out different clients, especially the minority clients. I think it just needs to be put out there that a lot more people should be thinking about reducing risk rather than actually how do I maximize my benefit.
Yeah, it's really important to note that proof of stake only works if you lose money when you do the wrong thing. Finalizing the wrong chain and attesting to it, that's the wrong thing. You're not doing your job as a validator. So you have to lose your money, right? Otherwise, we just undermine the security of Ethereum. And that's going to hurt if we ever get to that situation. So I really don't want to be there. But yeah, we can't afford to not do it and make risk not hurt you when you take it and lose.
On that front, also try to avoid having everything on Amazon, because we also need hosting diversity.
Yes.
Google Cloud too.
Yeah, all the diversities.
Yeah, definitely geographic locating. Like one of the things that I'd noticed before was that there were also a lot of validators attesting from around like the European region. But what happens if Russia cuts off gas supply to Europe and a bunch of validators in Europe go down, right? You just never know. It's just something to always think about, all these different sort of vectors that basically create risk for the network. And it's not just the technological, it's about your infrastructure. It's about where you're located. Where are you getting, the power to power your Raspberry Pi from?
Well, since we are talking about diversity, another hot topic is execution client diversity. I heard it downstairs that Geth probably has around 80 to 100% share right now, and that is also quite scary to me. So if today you are using Infura, but post-merge, you have to run your own execution node, then please choose a minority client for that as well.
Yes.
And the minority clients have gotten really, really good. Like the amount of improvement that we've seen in the non-Geth clients, and in Geth to be fair, but they're catching up fast. And probably the big one is at the moment Geth does offline pruning, and nearly all the other clients do online pruning. So you can avoid downtime and make more money by not using Geth. It actually is really working the incentives at the moment. It's good.
They're actually got really good support as well, and they're lovely people, the minority clients, I find.
Yeah, the smaller your market share, the better the people you are, right?
We have an incentive to help people out a lot more, especially the number can only go up from here.
Yeah, get the Dalai Lama here, I think.
Yeah.
Another aspect of client diversity is that they can cater to different needs. Like Lodestar is the client, well, you don't want to run maybe a consensus client on a browser, but at least you can follow the chain and check things that happen in a browser thanks to Lodestar. And Teku has this enterprise focus because I guess many of us like the home staking, being your own bank and such, but we don't live in autarcy, and there are other business around there that we need to onboard. And so this gives a breadth of use cases.
Right. I think so. The conclusion is that definitely please, if you are a newcomer, please try the minority client today, and not only the consensus layer, but also the execution layer client. And okay, the next question is for Paul, so the merge coming soon. It's not the end of the protocol upgrades. It will have other Ethereum 3.0 might be next to us. And want to ask you, so I know you and many of us start the protocol design and development since day one. If you can change one thing from the current consensus protocol, what would you choose?
I think at this stage it would have to be fork choice. I think I wouldn't. It's good. It's being difficult at the moment, and it's we've also had an interesting relationship in terms of how it is specified in a way that we will never implement it. I'm not saying that's the worst thing, but that was one of the challenges. We've also had challenges in testing it. It can be quite difficult to test, getting standardized tests for clients to run, and now we're kind of patching it a lot. So I think that if I could go back again, I'd love to have, before we started designing fork choices, to have a conversation about that and all the different problems we've had with it so far. And I think, I don't know what would be better, but I think together we could probably do a bit better than we originally did.
Yeah, for this issue, we have a workshop previous days, there was a session talking about how to get rid of the current fork choice rule, to jump into the maybe single slot finality design. That path is working on. People are working on that path, but yeah, like you said, not now, but there will be plans.
Yeah, I think it'd be fine for now. If it was a slap the bonnet and this baby's got a merge left in her.
Then yeah. And anyone wants to add anything about what would you want to change at the moment? Anyone want to change the ADN from little to big like that?
I think we're all just thinking fork choice. Yeah, fork choice at the moment. But I think generally, actually, I'm really impressed with how good the spec is and how the decisions have been made. We changed a lot of things from the execution layer, and in hindsight, with the way we're now merging, rather than kind of ending that chain almost and flipping over, there's a lot of difference there, and so that might come back to bite us, but it seems okay now. But it's been a long journey to get to here, because we were quite prepared, well, really not me, I wasn't in it most of the time, but people were quite prepared to say, oh, we were getting some real traction there, but we've got a better idea. We're going to go back around and try again and make that change. And that's dragged it out, and it is frustrating that it's taken that long, but that's why we've gotten to somewhere so good, and I think it's really important that we did it.
I think we did really well with the specification format as well. So going with an executable Python spec in a GitHub repo rather than the yellow paper and a bunch of EIPs on top of it. I think that's been good.
The extrusion spec is very helpful in testing as well, and that the core team are working on it to make it this type of EIP they're working on this type of development process in EL system as well. Hopefully the whole protocol upgrades will move forward to this way in the next few months.
Years. Yeah, I think the Ethereum spec is kind of pioneered this hybrid Markdown and Python approach where all the Python's in a Markdown, and then there's like Python scripts that go and yank all the Python out of it and put it into Python files and run tests against it. It's pretty wacky, but I think it's cool.
The parser's really dirty. Really dirty. Yeah. Okay, now we are open questions from the audience. Anyone want? Oh, Martin.
So I'm wondering about complexity and whether there are any areas that, to an outsider, are not perhaps obviously complex, whereas for you as developers, you have noticed that like this reeks. Here is where there will be bugs in my client, perhaps, or this is underappreciated area of complexity. If you have any examples.
I think where we have some struggles were at the interface between gossip and when you ingest block in your client, because the networking spec was often behind, and then the consensus spec assumes that things are there. And so we need to fill the gaps.
I think another good one, as I said earlier, is this API interaction between consensus-led client and execution-led client. If you look at the spec itself, which is the engine API spec, it seems fairly simple. It's just 4 simple codes. You tell the EE what is the head. You tell EE, I want a block to propose. You tell EE your transition configuration. But something that require more thoughts is usually timing related, is usually race condition, is usually what happens if your first EE failed, then you use the second EE stuff. So that's something that definitely requires more thought. That's something that we have been thinking a lot on.
I would say as well, the union of Casper, of FFG and LMD together is pretty funky. It's kind of really difficult to know what's going to happen and reason about that. And then I think probably from a more implementation level, the F1 voting scheme, we have it where we, the beacon chain uses a 50% majority to vote in what the last F1 block and deposit route is. The scheme that you need to use for the consensus clients to agree on that is quite complex. I find it quite difficult to keep in my head, and there's a lot of kind of weird edge cases in it where if the chain reorgs, and there's a lot of kind of assumptions about timing and also the way that the F1 chain moves around. I think that's kind of the thing where it's and it's never been consensus critical enough to get a whole lot of testing, and it's also involves an external service, so it's difficult to unit test. It seems to work well, and it can break, and we can fix it. But yeah, it's a little scary for me as well, because you can also with the wrong results, you can basically just dead end the chain and just break liveness. So yeah, it'd be interesting to put some crowbars in that and wiggle it around.
Yeah, delete it after the merge, hopefully.
Yeah,
hopefully it's not long for this world.
Cool. And think we can take more questions. Anyone?
With regards to client diversity, is there any concern around, so assuming we have a nice distribution of 20% each, effectively like each client almost copying code from each other and introducing the same bugs? So say one figured out how to interpret the spec, and then with collaboration, collaboration's great, but yeah.
Yeah, we've certainly seen that before, where we found a bug and went, oh, that's in literally every client. We missed that line in the spec consistently across the board. In some ways, if we all get it wrong, it's probably okay, unless it's, like you can mint ETH or something and clearly wrong, but at least, we didn't chain split, and that's a bit nasty, but we've got that in the history of the ETH1 chain too, where there's that, little block we don't talk about, and not the Deo fork, just where there was that bug. I think that is a risk, and I think that's why the 5 clients are so good, that you can't kind of keep up with all of the clients. So we do wind up with quite different implementations. Nimbus is wildly different to Teku, both good in their own way and unique. So I think that gives us some defense. And it does mean that we should still be worried when we have a client that is, more than or close to a third or close to 2/3 and would flip over with the help of another client, because it's very likely that you'll get a bug in 2 clients at the same time, but it's unlikely you'll get it in 3 and 4, because you start to get more diversity across then.
Yeah, every now and then, I agree that the diversity is great. Sometimes we've found that sharing components is also quite useful as well, like sharing cryptography libraries has turned out to be pretty good, and the diversity in them, given the complexity of building them, is perhaps not worth it. And we have like some algorithms that we share, and then having these 3 implementations on, and we've all kind of found bugs in it and fixed each other, whereas perhaps if we were completely different, we wouldn't have done that. So I guess it's one of those kind of hard things where there's no easy answer, I guess.
I think at the end of the day, by having great communication between all the teams, we can actually improve the clients all together concurrently. Like as an example, we're in the process of implementing doppelganger protection right now, and Lighthouse was able to share some of the information that they found in some of the edge cases that they have experienced, so that we can look into how we will implement this feature as well. And the fact that if we are communicating and we are sharing knowledge on all these different features and implementations that we're basically making, by having 5 teams' eyes on different implementations or how we even do it, chances are, we'll definitely, like, one of the teams will pick something apart, and perhaps from there we can improve each other's clients.
Nice. Yeah, that's all good takes. And so, yeah, we are about the time. So let's say okay, then only one person can answer. Leon?
When merge?
Sorry.
2025.
When it's ready and not a moment before.
Great. It's not this guy can not only this guy can control. It's the whole.
Oh, look, we're out of time.
There's
Yeah.
a shadow fork merge tomorrow.
Yeah, shadow one.
Shadow fork. Yeah.
Shadow. You can say tomorrow. So yeah. So thanks to all these heroes to make Ethereum safe. And so finally, can we all give a quick pro tips for the users or validators or stakers from each of you?
I would say be okay with missing some attestations and do it safely.
Same, and at the same time, I feel like also when you choose a client, don't choose the majority client, but also don't choose the most performing client. Choose someone that you like, right? By like, I mean you did enough research on their background, you have done the due diligence, and I really like Teku, for example. I think they're very organized. For example, like all their PR have an issue reference, so I know what they're working on, and to me, that is a special quality that I like, right? So yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's just great to for people to not necessarily be lazy validators and to try to experience different combinations of different clients and just being able to experiment and troubleshoot more, because the more that everybody's code gets used, the easier it'll be for us to fix bugs. So.
Yeah, I think I'd say, particularly at validators, the chain is not here for you. Sorry. You're providing a service to the chain, and we don't want to make your life mean for no reason. But when it comes down to it, we're not choosing your getting rich over the safety and security of Ethereum or anything. Whenever there's a choice between Ethereum and validators, we'll choose Ethereum every single time.
When you're stressed or you feel urgency, it's urgent to take a pause and think deeply about what you're going to do, because you may very well delete your keys or your computer. Yeah, it's urgent to take a pause.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Well, let's thank all the great panelists.